recording.
You were like
Your worksheet down, please. 11H, or sorry, 1H-2. Let me see what you got. I'll be right back. Oh, okay, gotcha. Okay. Okay.
And then I did 7 and 9 without 8.
Oh, I see. Got it. Let me check 9 because I actually have to look up my own answer on that one. I might bump that up.
You guys are
Check that one.
I don't think I got it right. I think it's number 9.
I gotta look up my own answers on those because
I have no
that was heroic.
I tried hard.
Okay. And I knew both these up.
And then I had my contact and so my contact
I did not hear that.
All right. I'll tell you what. After I'm done reading off the answer for the regular ones, what would help me is anybody who did extra credit? Anybody who attempted the extra credit, 8 and 9? If you could hand them in. Somebody stole my shelf from when I was downstairs. That's it. I'll try and find one. Yes. Got it. So if you attempted the extra credit, after we're done checking the answers for the regular ones, I'd like you to hand it in, maybe just put it straight on my desk here, and I will check them by hand within 24 hours. All right. See what we've got. All right. Anybody not? Oh yeah. Anybody not get a copy of this yesterday for whatever reason?
It's like, oh, they popped out their face.
Okay. Everyone, you ready? Part of what I'm hemming about is that my answer key got eaten by the computer, which I don't enjoy. I'm just going to work them all. The first 4, 5, and 6 should be very fast. 1, 2, and 3, I'll try and turbo speed them so you don't have to wait forever. And then we'll go from there. Number 1, if you have a vertex of 3, 1, and a point at, here's how I would do it. Vertex form is y equals a parentheses x minus h parentheses squared plus k. I'm just going to plug in everything I have. The h and the k are 3 and 1. And the point is 8 and 9. So 9 equals a parentheses 8 minus 3 parentheses squared plus 1. Does that make sense? I'm going to do the math now. 8 minus 3 is 5. Squared is 25. So now I have 9 equals 25a plus 1. That'll make 8 equals 25a. Which means that a is equal to 8 over 25. So your final answer should be y equals 8 over 25 parentheses x minus 3 parentheses squared plus 1. Does that make sense? Number 2. The vertex is negative 4, 10, and a random point on the parabola is 9, 11. Again, we're going to plug everything in. It's going to be 11 equals a parentheses x minus h will be 9 minus negative 4 squared plus 10. Did you see where that came from? So h comma k, x comma y. This is 9 minus negative 4 is only 9 plus 4, which is 13. 13 squared is 169. A plus 10 equals 11. So subtract, you'll have 1 equals 169a, which will give you a is equal to 1 over 169. Final answer? Y is equal to 1 over 169, parentheses, x minus negative 4. You can have x plus 4, it's fine. Squared plus 10. Does that make sense? Number 3. Vertex is 4, negative 5. And they have the x-intercept of 7. In order for this to work, you have to convert this into a point. This is 7, 0. And then do it like that. So again, y, so 0 equals a parentheses x minus h parentheses squared plus k. Simplifying, 7 minus 4 is 3, squared is 9. 0 equals 9a, basically minus 5. Add the 5 over, 5 equals 9a. So a is equal to 5 ninths. So the final answer is y equals 5 over 9. Parentheses x minus 4, parentheses squared plus negative 5. Does that make sense? Any questions on those? All right. Number 4, 5, and 6, due to my spacing out and typing it up in 30 seconds, I forgot to give you a third point on these, so I asked you to do a height multiplier of 5, and then I realized when I went home that made 4, 5, and 6 almost ridiculously easy. You're welcome. Happy Hanukkah. Merry Christmas early. Number 4, it looks like this. If you did x-intercept form, it's almost, fall off a log easy. 5, parentheses, x minus 4, parentheses, x minus negative 6. And you're done. 5. Same sort of deal. Y equals 5, parentheses. Now what I wanted you to do is plug in the blah blah blahs to get A, but we'll try that again some other time. 5, then this is x minus negative 20, then parentheses x minus 10. And number 6 is of a like mind with that. It's y equals 5, parentheses x minus 8, parentheses x minus 3. Any questions up to that point? Any of those you didn't quite follow, or if I went too fast? By all means, slow me down if I went too fast. Ready? All right. I need to erase a little bit of this. Everybody okay with number 1 and number 2? People at home, rewind. Click like and subscribe. Is there like a little bell or something? Punch the bell. I couldn't care less if you click like or not. It's touching, but yeah. Number 7. The points are 0, 3, 5, 1, and 6, 2. Now, part of what makes this a little more friendly is if you plug in a 0 for x. It's this. We're going to use standard form here. Y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. Again, very first thing next chapter, I'm going to give you a crash course on how to do this if there's not a 0 here. For three equations and 3 variables. We did it last year, but I want to make sure everybody remembers. It should be, let's try this point. It's 3 equals a times 0 squared plus b times 0 plus c. This is 0, this is 0, so it boils down to c equals 3. Now I can replace this with plus 3. So we're 1/3 of the way done. Now let's try the next point. 1 is equal to a times 5 squared plus b times 5. Now instead of plus c, I'm going to put plus 3. Simplify and I'll get 1 equals 25a plus 5b plus 3. And I'd like to get the letters by themselves. So we're really looking at 25a plus 5b is equal to -2. Again, can't do much with that yet, but it's smaller than it was. Now the third one, it should be 2 equals a times 6 squared plus b times 6, again, plus 3. Simplify, we'll get 2 equals 36a plus 6b plus 3. Now I'm going to subtract the 3 to the other side. So I get 36a plus 6b equals -1. Fair so far? I will be the first to admit that this got some really grotesquely big numbers when you're trying to cancel. And since you had to do it, so should I. Let's try this, please. I want to cancel either the A's or the B's. Any recommendations which one I should do? A or B? I hope you pick one of them too. B, thank you. Yeah, if you want to get something that has 25 and 36 in common, wow, it's going to be huge, huge, huge. It's basically 25 times 36, which is, I don't know if it's big. I'd like to cancel the 5 and 6. So I'm going to recopy these. 25a plus 5b equals -2. And 36a plus 6b equals -1. So what I want to do, I want to cancel these. I want to get, what number is big enough to handle 5 and 6 at the same time? Bless you. Bless you. Blake. What number is big enough to handle 5 and 6 at the same time?
30.
30. So I'm going to get these up to 30 and -30. I don't really care which is which. I'll do this as times, to get this up to 30, I have to do times 6. To this, I have to do times 5. And I have to make one of them negative. I'll do the top negative one. So it looks like this. Oh my word. I have to do this to myself. This is -150. A plus -30b equals +12. And then the bottom is 180. 180a plus 30b equals -5. It's not horrendous. It's not horribly, horribly bad. These cancel, and it makes 30a equals 7. Oh, that's sticky. Divide by 30, and we get a is equal to 7/30. Yeah, I know. That's not my favorite number to plug into things either. But, builds characters. You can offer it up for souls too. Bonus. Let's try this. You'll notice I have A. I need to find B. So you can plug it into one of these two. I would not plug it into one of the big magnified ones. You could. But I'm going to plug it into the smallest one I can find, which I think is this one. 25 times this monster plus 5b equals -2. Now to solve. Does everybody see what happens? By the way, it's something kind of nice. Yeah.
You can simplify.
Yeah, 25 and 30 are reduced to
5 and 6.
5 and 6. So it's 35/6 plus 5b equals -2. Now I'm going to need a common denominator. Does everybody remember the shortcut for this if you just don't like fractions at all? If you have an equal sign, it's, I nicknamed it the machine gun method. I was expecting the guys to remember that one. End up bloody mayhem in movies. What the females, the species. I think my women live longer, but that's my theory. You remember this? How do you get rid of a divide by 6?
Multiply by 6.
Yeah, as long as you do it too. Yeah, I'm going to multiply every single thing by 6. I hope nobody's superstitious. The Antichrist is in our problem. No. So anyway, this cancels. 35 plus 30b is equal to -12. Now you can just solve relatively let the b's join to make 30b equals negative 47. So divide by 30. That does not reduce, so b is equal to negative 47 over 30. So your final answer should be y equals 7 over 30 x squared plus negative 47 over 30 x plus 3. That's your final answer. Does that make sense? Maybe follow how to do that? Now again, if anybody had tried the 8 and 9, I would ask you to, before the end of the hour, put it on my desk and I will check with my hand and get it back to you tomorrow. Okay? Everybody okay? Okay. Yeah.
Could you go over like 9 or?
Tomorrow, okay. Yes. Any other questions on this? 1 through 7. All right. Now you'll have to refresh my memory. Did we ever get to go through the practice test in its entirety? Take that out. Now would be the time to do it. No. Computer. Now, is this version 2?
Nope.
Or just version 1?
Version 1.
Version 1. So tell me, is the first problem the line passing through 2, 5 and 0, negative 4?
Yep.
Yes.
So what are we going to gather? We're on the same page. Next. Let me read off the answers and then we can go through them. Number 1. Slope is 9 over 2. Number 2. There is no slope. Number 3. Negative 3 over 7. Number 4. You could either write it as 5 over 1 or just 5. Yeah. A what? Yeah. Any repeats of number 4? And number 5. Write an equation for the line through the given points. I have this in point slope form. You're welcome to use another form. I had y minus 3 equals 3 parentheses x minus 2. You could also have had y minus 0 equals 3 parentheses x minus 1. Either one of those would be fine. Any repeats there? Yeah.
I had mine in slope form.
Slope intercept form. Okay. We actually got to do this in my head. I'm thinking, ouch. You see y equals 3x minus 3. Number 6. Through 1 comma 0 and 1 comma 4, this is kind of funny. It has no slope, which means you can only write it as a what's called a degenerate equation, x equals 1. X equals 1. Number 7. The equation for the perpendicular bisector, there's only one option here. Y minus 3 equals negative 2 parentheses x minus 8. That is again, y minus 3 equals negative 2 parentheses x minus 8. And it repeats up to number 7.
I have that one in slope intercept form too.
Okay. No, that's perfectly legit. So it'd be y equals negative 2x plus 19. Number 8, sketch the graph of each line. Let me see if I can do this for you. Y equals 4/3 x plus 4. This is number 8. There are a couple ways to graph these, but this one is just go up to the y-intercept of 4, and then you rise 4, and you run 3. And there's your line. Make sense? So start at the y-intercept of 4, then rise 4, run 3, bam. Bob's your uncle. Number 9, 3x minus y equals 5. I will accept two different ways of doing this. This is a time where people who liked slope-intercept form actually got off easier than the people with Chubby-Hand method. I'll show you. Chubby-Hand method does work, by the way, on this one. You're going to get fractions as an answer, though, for one of the intercepts. I'll show you. The Chubby-Hand method is basically finding the x-intercept and the y-intercept. If I plug in 0 for y, I'd have to divide both sides by 3. So it's 5/3, comma 0. And then the other one, if you plug in 0 for x, negative y is equal to 5, so y is equal to negative 5. So you could do that. It's a little awkward to graph this. If you label it, it's legal. So on your graphing space, you probably have to count over 1. If you just put a dot there and don't label it, I may take off points on the test because I don't know where that is. Label it as 5/3 or 1 2/3. And then over here, 1, 2. Anything that's a round number, you do not have to label. As long as I can see exactly where it is. There you go. Now for people who did it with the slope-intercept method, that means you get y by itself. You should have done subtract 3x, negative y is equal to negative 3x plus 5, divide everything by negative 1, and you should get y equals 3x plus negative 5. And so what you should have there, start at the negative 5, and then go up 3 over 1, and that should work. But you get the exact same line, just a little further down. Any questions on that? I know I want to count fast on that. Number 10, y minus 3 is equal to 2 over 5, parentheses something, x minus 2. This is point slope form. This is where I would not recommend that you convert it into slope-intercept form. If you do, you could possibly get the right answer, but the y-intercept is going to be a fraction. It's going to be annoying. So, can anybody find the starting point for me? Nate. If this is point slope form, where's the starting point? 2 comma 3, correct. Why not negative 2, negative 3? Yeah, the negative is in the formula, so don't steal those. And then the slope is 2 over 5. So if you start at the starting point, 2 to the right of 3, use the slope, rise 2, smart T's, rise 2, run 5, and there's your line. Does that make sense? Number 11, intercept forms. X over 5 plus y over negative 3 is equal to 1. That, I would beg you on bended knees, do not try and convert this into slope-intercept form. You could. There's no problem with it, but this is one of the easiest ones to graph as is. X-intercept of 5, y-intercept of 3, you're done. Does that make sense? Any questions up to number 11? All right. Next page. Simplify. Number 12, 5 plus 14i. 5 plus 14i. Number 13, it boils all the way down to 50i. If then it put 0 plus 50i, that's fine. Number 14 is fun. It's two fractions. Negative 40 over 53 plus 34 over 53 I. That is again, negative 40 over 53 plus 34 over 53 I. Number 15 reduces to negative I. Number 16, solve by square roots. There are two solutions. X equals positive radical 113 over 3. And x equals negative radical 113 over 3. Questions? Yeah.
I did just plus or minus.
That's fine. Yeah. Yeah, 16 or 15? 15. Negative I. Anybody need 16 repeated again? It was basically plus or minus. The top is a radical 113, and the bottom is 3. Number 17, solve by factoring. You have to get the answer to 0 first. Once you do that, you should be able to unfoil it, and you get x equals 2, x equals negative 6. Number 18, solve by completing the square. It's a little icky, but it works. X equals negative 5 plus or minus 3 radical 7. X equals negative 5 plus or minus 3 radical 7. Verify that. Quadratic formula for number 19. We need to get the answer equal to 0 first. R equals 2 plus or minus the square root of 26 all over 3. 2 plus or minus the square root of 26 all over 3. Okay. Number 20. Identify the vertex, axis of symmetry, y-intercept, and x-intercepts of each, then sketch the graph. The vertex is negative 3, comma negative 8. The axis of symmetry is x equals negative 3. The y-intercept is 10. The x-intercepts are negative 5 and negative 1. And if you graph this thing, I want to make sure I'm on camera for people at home. If you have the vertex, use that. If you have, pretty much all you need is the vertex and the height multiplier, and you can sketch anything. The vertex is negative 3, negative 8. And the height multiplier is 2. Let's try that. You're way down here. Negative 3, negative 8. What's the pattern for this parabola? Josh. 2, and then over 2 of 8. Good. Let's try that. Over 1, it's normally up 1. This time it's up 2. It's twice as tall. So up 2. And then start over 2, up 8, which actually gets all the way up to the x-axis. Which actually reinforces the fact that you have x-intercepts at negative 1 and negative 5. And there's your graph. Questions up number 20. And we can go through that as to how we get it later. Number 21, solve by completing the square. You have to get the answer to 0 first. This is funsies. You should have n equals 5 over 2 plus or minus radical 107 over 2 I. Let me say again. N equals 5 over 2 plus or minus radical 107 over 2 times I. Number 22. If an altitude of a triangle is any segment which extends from the vertex to the opposite side and is perpendicular, which basically means height. You played with those in geometry, called an altitude. Like here, here's an altitude of this triangle. If you kind of turn your head like this, that's the height of the triangle. But if you turn your head like this is also a height of the triangle. And if you turn your head like this is also the height of the triangle. So there are 3 different heights you could use. Those are called altitudes. Given the equation, let me see. Give the equation of any of the 3 altitudes given those 3 points. There are 3 options. If you want, I'm trying to figure out which one is which. All right. The altitude from C is y minus. Is that right? Wait a minute. Hang on. Oh, that's creepy. Anyway, here are the 3 possibilities. Did we do this one? Just out of curiosity. Oh, nobody did? Oh. I'll read off the answer. It is extra credit. I'll read off the answers and I'll show you how to do them later if you want. The first one is y minus 2 equals negative 4 parentheses x minus 11. one of them. You could also have y minus 6 equals 5/3, parentheses x minus 9. And the third one is y minus 4 equals 1/4, parentheses x minus 1. 23, identify the vertex axis, blah, 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 and sketch the graph. The vertex, brace yourself, 7/2, comma 9/16. 7/2, comma 9/16. The axis of symmetry is x equals 7/2. The y-intercept is -5/2. And the x-intercepts are 5 and 2. X equals 5, x equals 2. To sketch the graph, I would use the x-intercepts and the y-intercept, and maybe the vertex if you could. The vertex is, stay. The vertex is 7/2, which is 3.5. And then 9/16, which is here. Again, if you label it, it's legal. So there's your vertex. It's opening down. The height multiplier is -1. So you could go over 1, down 1, or you could just do the x-intercepts of 2 and 5. That'd probably be the easiest way. Any repeats on the entire thing? All right, now it's time for questions. Yes?
Could we go to another
19, yeah. Scroll up. Stupid markers, stay put. There we go. Solve with the quadratic formula. Now again, whenever you solve anything, you gotta get the answer to 0 first. 9r squared minus 12r is number 19. Equals 22. I need the answer down to 0, don't we? Subtract 22. So you get 9r squared plus -12r plus -22 equals 0. The fact that they use the letter r is strange, but it's not fatal. Pretend they're x's. Basically, x equals blah, 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 -b plus minus square root b squared minus 4 scalar divided by 2a. You just do r equals -b plus minus square root b squared minus 4 scalar divided by 2. So r is equal to -b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac. Remember, this is the trick I use all the time on my answer, please. All over 2 times that. I do that all the time, just so that I don't lose track of plugging something in or doing it backwards or putting a negative version when I shouldn't. So -b is -12. Plus or minus the square root of -12 squared minus 4 times a, which is 9, times c, which is -22, all over 2a, which is 2 times 9. So there's the basis of it. That's actually your answers. You just need to simplify them. So this is going to be r equals 12 plus or minus the square root of 144. And notice it's going to be plus 36 times 22. I'm just going to do it quickly. 6 to is 12, carry the 1, 2 to is 6, 7 is 6 to is 12, carry the 1. 6. Oh, well, yeah. So 792. All over 18. Now, this is kind of grotesque. This is, let me see. 936. So here's what it looks like so far. R equals 12 plus or minus radical 936. All over 18. Question is, does radical 936 reduce? Let's find out. Is there any perfect square that goes into 936? Just out of curiosity, how many people remember the divisibility rules? How do you know if a number is divisible by 2? Start basic, go. It's even. How do you know if a number is divisible by 3? Remember? Go ahead. Right, add up the digits, and if 3 goes in, then 3 goes into the original number. So for example, on this one, 9 plus 3 is 12, plus 6 is 18. Does 3 go into 18? Yeah, then 3 goes into 936. That trick also works with 9. By the way, what's 9 plus 3 plus 6 again? Go. 18. Does 9 go into that? Then 9 goes into this. So there's at least a radical 9. Times radical, 9 goes into 9 once. 9 goes into 3 0 times. 9 goes into 36 4 times. Does anything go into 104 as a perfect square? Maybe remember the divisibility test for 4. It's a little more obscure than 2. The way you do a divisibility test for 4, again, you could go through life without knowing this, but it's kind of clever. For example, if I gave you 188, I want to know if this is divisible by 4. You look at the last 2 digits and see if 4 goes into that number. If it does, then 4 goes into the whole number. So how about this? Does 4 go into 36? Oh, sorry, looking at the wrong one. Does 4 go into 4? Yes. So 4 has to go into the whole thing. 4 times, as it turns out, it's 26. Somebody boil this down for me. What's right from that? Go. 3 times 2 times, yeah, correct, with 26. What is that really? 6 radical 26. Somebody catch that? Now, if you happen to be, like, have a brain that's way, way more powerful than mine, you might have spotted that 36 goes into this. I can't see that, but if you can, I worship the ground you walk on. But it's, I can handle 3s and 4s and things like that. 36 is, all right. This boils down to 12 plus or minus 6 radical 26 all over 18. Can somebody tell me how to simplify this? Okay, how do you simplify a monster like this? Break it apart. So what would it look like? 12 over 18. Do those reduce? 2 over 3. And then plus or minus what? Yeah, this reduces to 1 and 3. So radical 26 over 3. And those are your solutions. Look at them. Next. The other ones you want to see worked. Now's a good time to ask. Yeah.
Can you go for a one?
Yeah. Yeah.
Can you go over 16?
16. Yeah. Right. Solve by taking square root. 4 minus 9x squared. By the way, solve by taking square roots is a fancy way of saying solve by algebra. 4 minus 9x squared equals negative 109. And then I lost, that's number 60. So you tell me, very quick, is algebra, I can talk. Is algebra eligible, say that 10 times fast, for this problem? Yes, it is. How do you know? There's only one kind of x. So what do you get rid of first? Yeah, how? Right, I'm going to add the opposite just so, because I'm mean. So what do you get so far? Negative 113. Correct. Nate, take over. Divided by what? Negative 9. Good save. What do you get so far? X squared equals what? Yeah, that does not reduce except for the negatives. 113 over 9. One more step. Let's see. Go for it.
Square root
Yeah, how many answers?
of 2.
2, good catch. Plus minus. A lot of people lose points historically on this test just because they forget plus minus for square roots. Is this reduced at all? There's plus or minus. What's the square root of 113? Good or bad?
Not good.
Yeah, not good. Just leave it as 113. There's no perfect squares. Square root of 9? Yeah, leave it as 3. Done. Does that make sense? Next. Any others you want to see? Yeah. 15. Scroll back. Oh, yeah. Funsies part 2. Does everybody okay on this left-hand side? The problem number 19. I to the power of 8645787. 8645787. That's enormous. Does anybody remember the trick for this? Makes your life a lot easier. Now, you could count this out. It's every 4 it repeats. I to the 4th is 1, I to the 8th is 1, I to the 12th is 1, I to the 16th is 1, I to the 20th is 1. And 25 years later, you might get to 8,645,787. Remember the shortcut. What's the, what's the power that makes a nice answer of 1 again? If the power is any multiple of 4. Is that a multiple of 4, first of all? Heck no, it's not a number. But what's the divisibility test for 4 again? You remember? You only pay attention to the last 2 digits. Some very smart mathematician hundreds of years ago discovered that since it repeats every 4, you can use the divisibility test of 4 to do this. I mean, nobody else thought of this except this, whoever this was. This is actually pretty brilliant. This will be the exact same answer as I to the 87. You can ignore everything except the last 2 digits. Can you take that apart? What's I to the 4th again? 1. What's I to the 8th?
1.
What's I to the 40th?
1.
Exactly. How are you getting that so fast?
Just move that far.
Yeah, any multiple of 4 is going to give you an answer of 1 to the power. So, Rainy, quick question. What's I to the 80th power? 1. Let me split that up. Does everybody agree that this is I to the 80th times I to the 7th from the exponent rules? Tell me what I to the 80th is again. Anybody? I to the 80th?
It's 1.
It's 1.
Right.
I to the 7th, you can split off another I to the 4th, and then there's I to the 3rd left over. Megan, finish this off for me. What's I to the 4th? 1. So it's 1 times 1 times, does anybody have to remember I to the 3rd? Remember? Negative what? Negative I. So what's 1 times 1 times negative I? Got it. There's your answer. If I give you a, this is not a real word, but there's a friend of mine at college who used to love saying, if you get a ginormous, there's no such word, by the way, power, all you have to do is look at the last 2 digits. I to the 5,000,000,003 is the same thing as I to the 3rd. You just look at the last 2 digits, boil it down, and then you should be able to break it apart by hand, because that's small enough. This thing, oh my word, it would be dead forever. Next. Any others you're curious about? Got about 5 minutes, so yeah. 7. Let's see. Yeah, perpendicular bisector. You need to know 2 things about a perpendicular bisector. What does perpendicular mean? Yeah. Perpendicular. Opposite reciprocal slopes. That's the algebra definition. Good. So a perpendicular bisector has 2 things. It has to be the opposite reciprocal slope to the original. And there's one other thing. What does bisector mean? Oh, math people. Mary, what does bisector mean, just in general? Cut it in half. If you're talking about a line segment and you cut it in half, where you cut is exactly at the what? I'll give you a graph. The thingy that cuts exactly in half runs right over the what? Midpoints. In other words, we need to find the midpoint of the line segment we're talking about. So it's the opposite reciprocal slope, and we need to find the midpoint. Now the 2 points they gave us for A and B are 4, 1, 12, 5. A is 4, 1, and B is 12, 5. Can somebody find the slope between those 2 points? Austin.
So then you would do, it's like y2 minus y1.
Okay, what would that be in this case?
So you would have like 5 minus 1.
Good. Over.
12 minus 4.
Nice. Everybody see where they came from? y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1? Go ahead and calculate.
So then you'd have 4 over 8.
Correct, which is
1 over 2.
1 over 2. That's the original slope. Can somebody give me the perpendicular slope? Back up. Based on this. So, say again, I'm sorry? Yeah, it's negative 2 over 1, which is just negative 2. Flip it upside down and switch the sign. So we've got our new slope. I just need a new point. Blaze, help me out with this one. How do you find the midpoint?
You find the average.
Average. The average x and the average y. How do you take an average?
You add it and then add the numbers and divide it by however many.
However many things you have, in this case 2. So take the average x, step me through it.
4 plus 12,
Divided by
2.
2. And then do the average y.
5 plus 1.
Yeah, 1 plus 1, either way. Divided by
2.
Tell me what those are.
It'd be 16 divided by 2.
Yep, which is 8. And
5 over 2.
good one.
Or 6.
6 over
divided
2,
by
which is
3.
ding, 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 ding. You've got a midpoint, and you've got a new slope. Can somebody build the final thingy? Nick, help me out. What form would you use, by the way? Point slope, right. Why?
Because we have a point and slope.
Yeah, we have a point, we have the slope. Do it.
Y is equal to, no.
That would be
y-
slope intercept.
Y minus
Good.
8,
1 minus
3.
3, the y, equals,
Negative 2.
good, parentheses,
X minus
got it. That's the equation for perpendicular bisector. Question? Good, the answer, do you agree? Any last questions? Okay, so tomorrow, we're gonna plan to do one more practice test. I know this is the chapter that wouldn't die. It will die by the end of this week. We're gonna move on to chapter 2. This historically has happened year after year. Precalculus bogs down in chapter 1, just because reasons. But then, so tomorrow we're gonna do a practice exam in groups, just to train, just to get you good training. Thursday we go over it, Friday test, and then we leave this chapter behind. Please stand. You have us pray. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Glory be to the Father, and to the Son, and to the Holy Spirit, as it was in the beginning, is now, and ever shall be, world without end. Amen. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. All right. See y'all later. Somebody hit the record button over there. See you later. Everybody listen.